1, 2, 3, 4. Wow, this is so exciting. Wow, it's so exciting. Wow, it's so exciting.
Welcome to the Polar Bear Project, a podcast for the autism community. My name's Alan Doyle, and today we're meeting with Sonia Callaghan. Sonia's a mum and a clinical intellectual disabilities nurse and manages a team for a service provider here in Ireland. She's a strong autism advocate and is also involved in special schools and youth groups. Sonia's based in County Louth with her husband Joe and their 2 sons. In today's episode, Sonia shares her and her son Tomás's journey. The topics discussed today come with a trigger warning. There are vivid descriptions of self-injurious behaviour and extreme situations and events that have occurred. Sonia shows courage in sharing her and Tomás's story. To be seen and heard and discuss painful and traumatic events is never easy. To share them on a podcast platform is a step into vulnerability, which Sonia is so well equipped to do. Just like Sonia, it is our hope that sharing these experiences will help families and individuals that are going through a particularly difficult time to take some strength from knowing that you are not alone and it is possible to get to the far side. Also to deepen understanding and give those within the wider community a deeper appreciation for the complexities individuals and families are living with day in and day out. As always, we hope you take something of value from it. If so, please like and subscribe to the podcast on whatever format you listen to your podcasts on. If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe and click the bell for notifications of new episodes. Enjoy the show. So Sonia, lovely to see you face to face. We've talked a few times on the phone and exchanged emails and one thing and another, but lovely to see you face to face. We're here today. We're going to talk about your experiences and you're going to share some of your stories. I'll let you begin wherever you'd like to begin. If you want to start here and work backwards, or whatever way it works for you, and I'll dip in and out and we'll see what way the conversation takes us.
Well, yeah, absolutely, Alan. First of all, again, lovely to meet you. I spend a lot of time talking to parents who find themselves in either newly similar situations to ourselves, or like yourself, someone you meet along the way who is where you need to be or who wants to be where you are. I suppose there was a little private community I was unaware of, the autism parent world, until I joined it. Look, as you said in the intro, my background is intellectual disability nursing. As a young person, that's the direction my career took. I was familiar with autism. I understood it. I recognised it. I was aware of it. All of the things that a lot of people aren't. And then I went about my life and didn't think very much of it until our first son was born. And again, not then, because he was born, he was fine, he was a boy. We did what all parents did. We, watched him develop and grow. He seemed to be doing what he should be doing. He sat, he, ate, stood, slept, until the stage where he should have been moving in the direction of communicating and interacting and doing things that would be, I suppose, now I would consider kind of higher functions. At the time, I thought they were just part of the course. And very early on, I suppose, given the hat I wear, in terms of my experience, I was concerned. And from mildly concerned to very concerned happened fairly quickly. So actually about a year and 4 months into Tomás, I was concerned enough to be sort of outlining to health professionals. So at that stage, we're saying he's a year and 4 months.
Wow. Yeah.
He's a boy, they catch up, they do all those things. I didn't buy it. And I think that was around the fork in the road where instead of, sometimes I think people think it's a parallel journey. Well, we just turned left.
Right.
And turning left has been our experience, I suppose, ever since. I often say to people who, when I try to start to describe to Tomás, it's all very relative. If you're Tomás, he's fine. It depends on what you're comparing him to, what your baseline is. And our experience really quickly was we're not the poster child for autism.
Right.
We are as far removed from the poster experience of, child a little bit left of centre or with unusual interests or, maybe a slow to communicate but eventually got there. Well, I think our experience has been more marginalised. We're the narrow end of the really severe end of the scale. And with that, and all the complexities that go with it. I think if there's an associated or a comorbid condition that could occur with autism, we have it.
Right.
Which makes for being Tomás really challenging, and it makes for being around Tomás really challenging. And sometimes that seems okay and perfectly fine, and you're just plodding along. And other times that feels like reversing backwards up Everest, blindfold in the dark with spiky shoes on. I mean, I don't have words that accurately describe how challenging can be.
Right.
And how intense that situation can be. So that's the backdrop to us. Tomás is now 18.
Mm-hmm.
He is still very complex. We have weathered puberty and teenage land with the battle scars, but we've come out hopefully the far side.
Mm-hmm.
He is a lot further along than at times I would have dared to hope for. He is still incredibly disabled by his autism and his all fully embracing associated conditions. He's the very highest level of support that someone could require. I mean, to leave a building, he needs at a minimum of 2 people with him. Because in public, the opportunities for things to go very badly wrong get very much higher, as he's shown us multiple times. But again, relative to himself, at this moment in time, he's in a very good place. I'm always saying that with a note of intense caution, because we've been in good places that haven't stayed very long. And the other thing I think I've got good at over the years is being really happy with the not so bad. Because there's always an element of what you have to put up with or deal with. And sometimes when he was younger, I didn't recognise when we were in a place of not so bad, which quickly followed by a place of, oh my God, this is horrendous. Yeah. So sometimes you have to to measure your aspirations and your expectations. So ours are firmly in the, if we're not so bad, that's okay, we can do that. It's an experience, to say the very least.
Wow. And I suppose, no, you're absolutely right. When you're, it's that thing of in the present moment, how often do you stop and go, oh yeah, these could very well be the good times, rather than, what's coming around the corner, without being overly pessimistic, because I'd be very much the glass is half full person myself. But I suppose, Sonia, to try and capture or give us a flavour, put some perspective on what you've said there, because that was just an incredible introduction or an incredible kind of overview. But just, I suppose, to get into some nitty gritty, maybe just some stories that would kind of highlight what for you kind of epitomizes or demonstrates how tough things have got, but then really importantly as well, going back to it, that how everyone's adapted, the family, Tomás in particular, and overcome things as well. But so I suppose really, without just sort of focusing on how hard it's been, it's like, okay, to appreciate how far Tomás has come and how you guys have come. Most definitely we need to hear, if you'll share some of those times, whatever comes to mind.
Yeah, absolutely, Alan. There's so many examples. I don't know. I'll tell you what I think it is. I think the effect of ongoing intense situations is cumulative. So any one of them in isolation is a bit dramatic and occurred, and you get over it. I suppose cumulatively, the day-by-day constant erosion of, confidence, relaxation levels, all of these things, as they get eroded away, leave that any situation can feel catastrophic. Now, in our case, a lot of the situations actually were catastrophic. So, as I said to you, comorbid conditions, small to severe autism, right? So, if I could just describe, I suppose, the textbook versus the reality of each of these conditions. So he's got severe autism, so he has a difficulty with communication, with social interaction, and with some rigidity of thought and patterns of behaviour. That's the textbook. Yeah. So in terms of communication, Tomás's expressive language is really poor. He has words that he uses as words, but not to communicate with you. And his receptive language, or your ability to communicate with him, is momentary. So he may want something that he can't tell you. And if he can't do that in an effective way, he may resort to getting really frustrated with himself, which he will display through either self-injury or injuring you. Right. So that's the most basic format. And when I'm saying injuring you, I'm talking about a 6'2", 6'3" person who can come at you with a head like a weapon.
Right.
And who has no sense of this really isn't a good plan, or I can hurt someone. And at times that became his default setting for everything. I'm annoyed, I'll hurt you. There's no milk, I'll hurt you. I can't find the remote control, I'll hurt you. I can't get out the door because it didn't open fast enough, I'll hurt you. So that pattern of behaviour at one point about 3 years ago was absolutely a daily occurrence, to the point where I once climbed out our bedroom window to go to work.
And are you on a ground floor?
Yes, thankfully. But
okay, well, that's okay.
the reality
Not
was
that it's okay, but
no, I didn't go down. I didn't go down drain pipe.
No, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, because I'm afraid of heights anyway. But besides
right,
that, no. The reality was, in the hallway was my enormous teenager who wanted to kill me. Right. For whatever reason that I can't just remember at the time. Mm-hmm. And the intensity of Tomás's autism is, if he's doing something, he's not doing something else, or he's not distractible to something else. He's doing what he's doing. So my options were wait it out, which was not going to go away, or go to work. But I mean, most people who go to work have not been up since 3 a.m. and haven't climbed out a window to do it.
No.
So that's the kind of intensity I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I said he's got autism spectrum disorder. He's also got a moderate learning disability, so his ability to take in language, to process it and to understand from it is less than usual. Mm-hmm. So again, in terms of your communication with him, those tools are, again, if he was of average intelligence, you could work on other tools or other techniques. So again, marginalised or altered. The early things that he presented with was he has a firm diagnosis of ADHD, so he's a really high energy human being. Right. So again, you couple that with a very large child who's very intense in their way of being, and you add 100-fold of energy. So his ability to move is fairly epic, and the speed he moves at is also kind of correspondence with that. Mm-hmm. The other thing that was very quick was he engages, as I said, in self-injurious behaviour, usually in the form of hitting his head on a solid surface. Now, you and I are going to say this in a very desensitized way because we're familiar with that.
Yeah.
But when you meet that and you're not familiar with that, or you know yourself when you're the parent of somebody who's doing this, it's visceral.
Yeah.
Their head is hitting a solid surface. The fact that they're choosing to do it isn't the bit that you're concerned with. Yeah. What you're concerned with, it's happening. Their head is hitting a solid surface with force, with enough force that he put a drawing pin through his forehead. So we're not talking about gentle tapping. Yeah. This isn't sensory. This is full on, I am putting my head through the wall.
Yeah.
So in that moment, it's an overwhelming experience, and you would put yourself between the head and the solid surface to prevent it hitting it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Irrational as that is. So that then becomes, hitting mom with my head, that's a thing. And I openly accept I probably caused that in the early days when he was 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was going to turn into, okay, this is what that is now.
Yeah.
So I don't have to hit my head off the wall, I can hit it off you.
Yeah.
So there's your self-injury. Then he developed pica. And for people who don't know what that is, that's eating edibles. In his case, that was to the point of needing the Heimlich maneuver. Yeah. So eating lots of inevitable. In fact, eating about 5 different food types and items, but everything else. So food was limited, very narrow margin. Pica was everywhere.
Okay, Sonia, hold on a second here. Hold on. So what you're saying is that when he was banging his head against hard, solid surfaces, and as you said, it's impossible unless you've witnessed it. It's so hard. The sound, the noises, the pure, suffering that is going on for in this case Tomás or any other person in that situation, and you're trying to block that, and then what you're doing in blocking it turns into, as he gets older, that you are the go-to thing to hit with his head, and that in itself can't, that in itself, I think just it's worth kind of slowing down. I know it can be very difficult, and I'm actually feeling a bit emotional just having to kind of name it like that. But the facts of the matter is that that is exactly for other listeners or other people out there, when their child is particularly small, is that it's important to ask for the right help and to try to redirect in other. Now, when I say redirect, there's no we're talking the red mists are long gone and we're in a different zone altogether than red mists. But it's just that piece though, Sonia, just when you said it there, it was just so I think it was worth stopping, pausing, and just kind of looking at that. Do you have any other, like, is there other ways to redirect, or is there other things, or what did you find worked for you then? Or
the truth of it is, none of it worked for me, Alan.
Right. Yeah.
I suppose what worked for Tomás was, at different times, all the predisposing things, the things that caused him frustration, the reduced communication, the frustration at his world, all of those things meant the frequency of it being very high, meant it happened very often.
Yeah.
What we learned to do in time was learn to switch off the bit of your head which says, this is something catastrophic, and therefore give emotion to it. Because if we do, then it's powerful.
Yeah.
And if it's a tool that's powerful, and it was his quickest route from A to B, then he used it most often.
Right.
So really the way out of it, unfortunately, was ignoring it. And taking myself out of the place where I could be the object.
Yeah.
Because if I was in the room, I was the object.
Right.
And
Right.
I'm not joking when I say it looked like barroom brawling in my kitchen on occasion, where my husband and or care staff were trying to prevent him to get to me.
Right.
To use his head as a weapon to express himself.
Right.
So it's not really that anything changed in any particular moment, or any particular thing worked. I think lots of things happening at the same time worked. And definitely peak of puberty, and that's a perfect storm that you don't anticipate when your child is 6 or 8.
No.
But once it occurs, it really occurs. And I think, again, to give it some context, so I was kind of going on a bit of chronology of how things were diagnosed and with him. But Tomás was 10 when it became really apparent that his mental health was really going downhill rapidly. So, I mean, I know anxiety is a comorbid condition, and plenty of people will say their child is very anxious, and certainly Tomás was very anxious, and it was apparent. But we moved into a realm way beyond the associated with autism anxiety. We moved into a place where his anxiety triggered a full-on diagnosable obsessional compulsive disorder. Now, again, people use that term, oh, you've got OCD. No, you need to meet OCD to understand OCD. And until you've met it, when it interferes with the person's ability to eat, to sleep, to leave the house, to go to the toilet, when the person is in that state, and you've seen somebody in that state, and the anxiety is something you can touch, it's physical, it's nearly visible, then you realize, okay, that's what OCD is. So in the process of that, in the state of anxiety, the expression of self-injury just was monumental at that particular stage. Now, look, subsequently, his OCD with medication is more or less under control. Now, it's always there. And at times of any level of anxiety, it comes back with bells and whistles on. But again, this is something that people don't understand. Living with someone with autism and OCD, and somebody said this to me one day, you have an answer for everything. You never run out. So there is never not the Carex on the sink if the Carex on the sink is important. There is never not the screwdriver to fix the remote control if the remote control is important. There is no, we ran out of milk, so we just got into the car and went into town. You don't run out of milk, ever. Not at all. Somebody, a care staff actually that worked with us, said, this house has the answer to problems that haven't even occurred. Because when the retribution for the problem is swift and furious, you never let it happen again. And I mean, the truth of it is, and there are parents out there today, there are mothers out there today, I lived in a constant state of fear. I went to bed afraid, with my shoulders in my ears, because how did we just live through that? I woke up with a deep breath intake, thinking, what's ahead today? And having no knowledge of that. I mean, so examples of some of the things that happened, I had a bleed at the back of my eye, more commonly seen in boxers. That was from injury by my child. I was hospitalised in Beaumont after I hit the door frame with my back, and I have a bad back anyway, but I went into some sort of immediate disc rupture. I've had the bruises, the black eyes, we've had the public displays, the guards were called in Smith's toy shop, you name it, we've done it. I've been in the pond, we've almost been in the Boyne. Tomás has a real determination that he wants to jump into the Boyne. Thankfully, the day he made it over the railings, the tide was out. He opened the car door at 120 kilometres an hour on the motorway, which he had managed to jimmy the child lock as I went, before I got him into the car. And I was in the fast lane. There was a lorry inside me, somebody driving right close behind me. His feet were bare, and I was driving, holding onto his shoulder while he was beating my face to get me to let him go because he wanted to jump out of the car. Now that happened in seconds, and I managed to get pulled in, but when I pulled in, I had to let him go, which meant he jumped out of the car and ran barefoot down the M1. Thankfully not across the M1, down the M1, and because he was barefoot, it slowed him down. I jumped out of the car and ran after him in flip-flops in the pouring rain. And I'd love to tell you someone stopped and helped, but that I'm sure people must have thought, what is this? Of course, once I caught him, I had to try and get him back to the car. So I had to drag him, assaulting me, up the M1 in the absolute pouring rain. I was actually driving him to respite. And what's even worse is, then I had to drive the car. I couldn't even breathe. I got in the door of respite and I fell into their office. And of course, that was just wrong then, because what was I still doing in respite? So see you, bye, I should be going.
Yeah.
So I got back in the car. I drove to the first restaurant. You can see exactly how that's happening.
I'm just started to breathe again there for a second. Yeah, go ahead. Go on.
I couldn't even speak for about 3 hours. I'm not joking you. I couldn't speak. I saw everybody's life flash before me in that moment. I don't know how his legs didn't hit the tarmac at 120 miles an hour. I don't know.
How old was he then, Sonia? How old was he?
About 14 or 15. He was bigger than me anyway.
Oh dear. Wow.
And you see, again, of course I had a child lock on the car, but you do not know the speed that this child moved at.
Yeah.
He had once managed successfully to get a car door open, so it became a thing. And one of the things he would do, getting into the car, was he would check where the child lock goes on, and he was so quick and subtle.
Yeah.
This is the same person who took, there was rails in the school blocking the upstairs windows, and he was taking out the screws one by one, So I don't know. He has been on the roof of someone's house because he wanted to be rescued by Fireman Sam.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So again,
I know that one for sure.
You come across it. So
yeah.
People talk about impulsive behaviour. If you've never met impulsive behaviour, unless you've seen that sort of stuff, you haven't met impulsive behaviour. So all of these titles and lists of things that someone can have wrong with them, they mean nothing.
Yeah.
Until they're happening in your house, and until they're happening every day.
Yeah.
Tomás never slept a full night. Insomnia is fine if it's your insomnia. When it's not your insomnia and you have to go to work and function.
Yeah. I
was getting up when young ones I was working with were coming in from the nightclub. I had a day's work done prior to going to work, and then I worked 12 hours and came home and did another however many hours.
Yeah.
Like that, we padded the walls of a room because I lay in bed listening to a hedge banging off a wall. It's intense. And I don't mean to start, like you did say at the start, this isn't just a list of, oh my God, I'll tell you the terrible stories, because they're only at the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
What I need to say, and I'm like you, I do tend to look at things here's a couple of things, right?
Right.
I am lucky, and I say this sincerely, in that I am married to a very quiet man. It's always good. Not just for Tomás, because he's married to me. That's old as it is. But,
very good.
And a very balanced human, a very practical, it won't be so bad. We'll get through this half an hour and, let's just rock on with it. So that's the first thing, because I don't have to tell you or anyone else, it's an absolute trial to marriage to have the intensity that kind of living brings. Yeah. I also have a younger son, and that brings a bit of balance, because they need to, actually be raised. Now, we often say he thrived on neglect, because the second he could do a thing, he was left to it because we really hadn't got the time to focus on otherwise.
Yeah.
But so what we were good at was, I suppose, as a team or whole family, was taking the moment, accepting the moment, and where possible, maybe afterwards, but finding the funny thing about it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I can't tell you the story right now, but I once ended up running across a cornfield in a wetsuit. There's no bit to the story that I could tell you that's going to make sense of that. But it was a really traumatic story that we ended up really laughing a lot at. Laughing a lot.
Yeah.
And having an ability to laugh at yourself and to say, look, where are we right now? Okay, that happened.
Yeah.
But this also happened. Because in every single day, there'd be something that happened.
Yeah.
There was only 23 other hours that didn't happen. That other thing, So I think there's a bit of that. But there's also a bit of, it's not a bit. There's a total all-encompassing love for this human being. This isn't, because, this isn't autism. My head may know all these things. My heart doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
My heart is, you're my kid, better or worse, good, bad or ugly, and I adore you. And one of my biggest fears, Alan, wasn't about getting hurt, getting hit, is that other people, the real world, weren't going to see what I saw.
Yeah.
They weren't going to value what I valued. That nobody was going to turn around and think you are just the coolest dude. The people were going to miss all that. They were just going to get caught up in the package that presented and miss the track and the love.
Exactly.
And people say, "Oh, your child is withdrawn," or whatever. Tomás adores me. He adores all of us.
Yeah.
And he's very prolific about it. Now, it's inappropriate, but very prolific about it.
Yeah.
And so it's not that it's all bad. Yeah. Would I wish it away? God, feck, yeah. Would I give it away? Yes, absolutely. I take it all.
Yeah.
As I said to you, if it's about the essence of the person and not the list of the disabilities, the essence of that child, that young man, that human, that's a good essence. Yeah. And I care more and would do more for him than possibly anybody in the whole world. And it brings it out in you.
Yeah,
I didn't know that I had that in me. But I have, and it brought it out of me.
Yeah.
So it isn't it is a tale of woe in some ways, but it's a journey, and it's and it's just what it is.
Yeah.
As you said, Sonia, look, you're so right, and you have to take those moments to laugh. I mean, we would on a regular basis see these ashen-faced people pulling into our driveway, pointing at the roof. Coming into the driveway, pointing at the roof, and I'd go, "Oh, Killian's on the roof again," and he'd know. As soon as he'd hear, I'd go to open the front door, and I'd let a roar, and he'd hear him dropping back in the skylight. And I mean, another day, a man was ushering him, and now he was only very small, stark naked around the side of the house, just not knowing what to do, and he was trying to usher him, and of course I opened the door and just looked at him and went, "How the hell did you get out? Get in here." And then I looked up and the man was gone. And then I thought to myself, holy shit, I didn't explain one thing to that guy. What the hell was all going on? And he was gone. I mean, if you're out there, thank you very much. but like seriously, there's so many of those. When you said the cornfields, I was like, oh God, yeah, no, there is.
Yeah, and actually on that, I once met a lovely old lady while walking through a set of woods. Now, what she met was my then about 10-year-old son, who was, now we're in the woods, remember this, the woods, the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So I'm coming with a child who has just his boxers on him.
Right.
No shoes, no socks, no clothes. Mm-hmm. I have been in the pond. I am covered in pond slime up to my neck. I mean, from my neck down, including the car keys, which was a fob, which was a different problem. Okay. So I'm walking, frog marching him. The care staff is behind us, smoking and clearly wanted to give up his job. And that was his first day, by the way.
Oh, gee. Guy probably needed that cigarette gun.
Yes, he did. Guide dog is walking to one side of us because we had one of the assistance dogs. And the old lady said, as she approached us, "Could you put that dog in a lead? I'm afraid of a dog." And I'm looking at her like, did you see the rest of us? You're afraid of the dog. You should be afraid of us. Did you actually know left and right? What do you say?
Exactly. Oh, stop. And I suppose, if we can, again, for the sake of contrast and all of that, I mean, turning the corners, and as you mentioned there as well, how medication started to help Tomás and ease all these things. And so if you want to, I suppose, just, tell us a little bit about how things have changed, and when you look back on how far you've all come, maybe just to I mean, we could go on all day here, actually, to be honest, Sonia. We sure could. Go on.
So like that, I suppose there's the purest piece where I don't want to medicate my child. No, yeah. I don't want to medicate my child for any reason. I don't want to give them medication for hay fever. I just want them to be fine.
Yeah.
But because Tomás does everything to the extreme, he also did mental ill health very apparently, very obviously, and to the extreme. So we didn't have a choice except find a psychiatrist because he wasn't functioning. He stopped being able to concentrate at all. Like, I mean, he attends an ABA school, he still does. He'll be finished in June. So pieces of work were measured. We knew he could work up to 7 minutes on a topic before he needed a break. We knew a lot of things about him, and he stopped functioning, full stop. He couldn't concentrate. So we started to try and reduce the demand to see if we could help him. It was really apparent he was in a bubble in his own head of being very unwell. And we were lucky enough, now when I say lucky enough, it took us nearly a year to find the right psychiatrist, but we did. And we didn't go about medicating autism because there's no medication for communication. There's no medication for socialization. It doesn't exist. If it did, we'd be making a fortune. But we started to treat the underlying condition. So initially that was treating the anxiety. And we had a bit of success with that till he was about 14. At 14, he left the Richter scale again. He came out of the medication comfort zone, and it was really apparent we weren't getting anywhere. So there was a bit of a rehash done. Now at that stage, he really, really sunk into OCD. So if I can just describe what that looked like, he couldn't eat because he couldn't stop routines of checking door handles, checking light switches, checking taps. So he couldn't sit. So he couldn't sit and he couldn't eat. So he lost 3 stone. Now he was a tall, thin child. His ribs were sticking out. He stopped being able to interact in any way, and our ability to influence him at all disappeared. He was just in a bubble of pain. He couldn't go to the toilet because he couldn't get through the door frame, and oftentimes got as far as the bathroom and then wet himself and couldn't understand how it had happened and became very distressed. And after about a month, he couldn't actually make it out the door to school. And he used to sit in the hallway crying, saying, "Help me, I'm stuck. Wow. I'm stuck. I'm stuck." Yeah. He just couldn't go through the rituals and routines. He couldn't get to bed. We couldn't get him to bed because to get from the kitchen down to his bedroom was impossible because he couldn't be satisfied that he did everything that he was supposed to do. So the rituals overtook him. And actually at the time when he saw the psychiatrist, he said if he didn't have the primary diagnosis he did, he would have needed to be in hospital, but he knew that he wouldn't be able to cope with hospital. Right. He was absolutely that unwell with OCD. So we had to go on a medication that I wouldn't have loved at the time. It's an old-fashioned one. It's not a clean drug. It's not modern, but it was actually highly effective. Right. The downside of it was it interacted with he's also epileptic. It interacted with his epilepsy medication. Right. So as his mental health improved, his epilepsy disimproved. So that was another year of trucking and trailing and trying to find a medication. And then the problem was when we increased the epilepsy medication, it put the OCD medication out of kilter. So that was a long process that definitely took us a best part of 2.5 years to really get him well.
Right.
So at the moment, his OCD is at a level that he copes with. It's still there, it's not gone, which he takes pretty close to the top dose of the medication he's on for. The epilepsy is an improved picture. It's not as good as it could be, but it's better than it was. And again, we're in a flow with that. We're now under Beaumont. We've left Temple Street. So, they're getting to know him and get to know his tolerances and all of those kind of pieces. Yeah. So again, in the overall scheme, he's living with it. It's not impacting on his life on a daily basis, but it's certainly impacting on his life. But I think all of those things come together along with, behavioural approaches, along with resources, along with experience, along with a residential placement, along with you name it, we're in a good place. Yeah. So he is in what I call a shared care placement. The HSE call it a permanent placement, but I treat it as kind of a regular respite. So Tomás spends 5 nights a week in a group home with one other child, and he spends 2 nights a week home with us. And he is equally happy with the delighted to come home and hang out with us, and then equally happy with the see you bye, close the door on the day he goes back. He's got 2 staff day and night for him. And therefore his world is very secure, it's very safe, he's very comfortable in it. He, pre-COVID, had a lifestyle that was quite enviable because, again, the availability of staff to bring him where he wanted to go at the time he wanted to go at worked very well for him. So there's a lot of things lined up to be where we are now. And where we are now, and it sincerely is a much healthier, a much better place. We're a healthier family. He's a healthier human now. I'm also 18 years into this, so I say that with a note of caution. Because you know, tomorrow, the day after, the next piece, complication, addition, change can occur. But as of this moment, we're in a good place. He's in a good place, and therefore we're doing things like talking to other parents, supporting people where we can. Because this is definitely a group where, if you're in this club, you need to be willing to. I call it paying it forward. You need to pay it forward because you are going to need it in spades at some point. And so many people helped our journey so much that if anybody says, can you help? The answer is without question and undoubtedly, of course. There's something I can do, I'm doing it, because you don't know the day or the hour. Autism snuck very quietly into my house and it wore a very pretty face and I didn't see it coming. But I'll tell you, it opened my eyes very widely and I've approached my career very differently in the intervening years.
Yeah, I can imagine so. And actually, I'll tell you, first of all, I think I'm very mindful of your time. So we've covered so much. And on that, I just want to thank you, thank you, because you are on the other end of that phone, particularly after COVID, when Killian's health deteriorated rapidly between seizures and then a panic disorder because he couldn't understand what the hell was going on. And the ads on the TV were all about COVID and what is happening to the world. So it was just incredibly difficult. And we've began a lot of those journeys now. Killian is on those journeys. We're all sharing that journey with him. And I want to thank you so much for your help and guidance on that, because it's been a tough one. So listen, I think we should wrap it up there. I always said I was never going to get upset on these podcasts, but anyway, so I think we should wrap up there for today. But Sonia, you are going to have to come back, and we are going to have lots more talks about this.
Look, I admire what you're doing. I think if I was the younger version of me and there was somewhere I could listen to someone's recall and even to hear that someone's surviving it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, someone's on a journey that looks like crap, but guess what? So you're not on your own. You're not on the own in the crap. There's other people dealing with it.
That's it.
It's that solidarity that helps. So anything, I said it to you and I mean it, and I said it there live on air, as far as I'm concerned, pay it forward. I don't know what's around the next corner. I don't know who's going to be the person. And I have no problem tapping people. I have no problem saying, can you help me?
I've
learned that over the years too. But no, seriously, best of luck with your endeavours. It was my pleasure talking to you. I hope there's some sound bites in there that are useful.
Oh, loads. We're still, I'd say we're going to keep running right up until now, to be honest. It's fantastic. But thanks again.
Thank you for taking the time to listen. We hope you took something of value from today's show. And as I said in the opening, it's our hope that sharing these stories and experiences will help deepen understanding and give those within the wider community a deeper appreciation for the complexities individuals and families are living with day in and day out. You'll find links and show notes on the website. And as we mentioned, everyone's journey is unique. However, it's also reassuring to know that you're not alone. If you have any ideas or suggestions, please contact us. Drop us a line to hello@polarbearproject.com. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and Twitter with the hashtag Polar Bear Project Podcast. We want to hear your story. The project currently is 100% voluntary. You can donate and subscribe on the website. We're so grateful for all your support to date. If you want to advertise, please get in touch with us also. We can't say it often enough. Your lived experience matters. If you want to be heard, we're listening. That's all for now. We look forward to sharing another episode with you soon. Until the next time, take your time.